Do you think it was intentional or the
Was it just luck?
There's no better mascot or character to represent the industry than Pudgy Penguins.
And all the kids that have the penguins will grow up to be holders.
Yeah. I think common consensus is like, we are the team to bet on in NFTs. Look at their founders and look at their teams and be like, what are you doing? You see how many views I'm clocking in for 60 grand a month? Give me $1 million a month.
What's the biggest risk for Pudgy Penguins?
It's like driving a sports car. You're going 100 miles an hour and you're either going to get to the destination faster than everybody else or you're going to crash out. I want to do this Netflix thing or this Hulu thing or, this partnership or this collaboration. We took some really big swings at that and thank God they didn't bite us in the butt. But he told me, I was like, look, Luca, I don't know if I want to be in Walmart in 2026.
Luca, you are a professional acquirer. You recently acquired Frame.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
And I believe that consumer crypto is the final frontier. We had $25 million on the table from some of the biggest L2s.
They can just duplicate many places or something.
We're going to bring a marketing machine to crypto that it's never seen before. And we're going to bring a marketing machine to this ecosystem that I think no other ecosystem has seen before. But that marketing machine only knows how to sell fun. It only knows how to sell virality.
The term itself is pretty much vague right now. I think consumer crypto itself is very vague, and also being fun is a little bit vague, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm going left when everyone's going right, and I'm saying like, look, I'm going after this whole new generation of young money.
I wonder what is your strategy for acquiring new user? I mean, new Gen Z or Gen Alpha users.
How do I get, millions of views every single day across different social channels with thousands of different social media accounts on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook and YouTube? Even if we take bumps in the road, it's not going to stop me from winning. Like I'm confident that the path to success is clear and it's not if, it's when.
Wow.
It's going to be a digital masterclass and I'm not going to get into the semantic, people are watching. There's competitors going to be watching this. Competitors are going to be watching this, So like, you're going to see it, and by the time you see it, it'll be too late.
Welcome back to PFP. Next to me, we have a very, very special guest. Who are you?
I'm Luca Netz.
He's the Luca Netz.
Brian.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. And I'm super excited to be here.
What do you do?
I'm the CEO of Igloo, which owns Pudgy Penguins as well as 앱스트랙트. And Pudgy Penguins wants to be the face of penguins around the world and the mascot for crypto, which I think we're pretty close to achieving. And 앱스트랙트 is the consumer chain, which I think will be a huge solution for a lot of crypto's problems. So we just got that started, but it's going to be an exciting journey ahead.
Okay, so I want to ask from the Pudgy Penguins. Yeah, you acquired the Pudgy Penguin IP before. Yeah, so and it achieved huge success.
Yep.
And what was the rationale behind your acquisition of the IP?
I think the idea was I saw all of these NFT brands see and find huge success both within their communities and venture. And they were kind of pitching this narrative that they were the next generation of brand and the next generation of collectible. And when I kind of looked under the hood into all of their businesses, I kind of came to the conclusion that I felt like a lot of what they were doing was a little bit fake. And I felt like there wasn't anything that they were doing that I couldn't do better. And so naturally, I was one of the bigger holders of Pudgy Penguins. I was a huge believer that Pudgy Penguins actually had the opportunity to be bigger than all of the existing PFP collections at the time. But because the founders didn't have experience, it was like really quite literally their first business. They didn't really take Pudgy to where it needed to be. One day I saw one influential, Twitter guy, make a bid on the IP. And I thought to myself, well, look, these things are next generation of brands. They're next generation of collectibles. These are things I know how to do, I think, almost better than anybody in the space. At least that's what I thought at the time. And I was like, look, rather than just complaining and telling the founders to do more and to be more, I was a huge, passionate, I had a lot of passion for the space. And I was like, look, I think destiny is bringing me here. So I took a risk. I my hands kind of took over my body. I made a bid for the project. 3 months later, the deal got closed, and we bought it for about 750 ETH, which at the time was 2.5 million. And it's been about 2.5 years since that acquisition. It was about April 2022. And it's been a successful journey thus far. And hopefully I've shown everybody, you know, what it looks like to build one of these next generation brands the right way.
Yeah. Why did you think that you could have done better than anybody else? What kind of experience did you have like prior to doing Pudgy Penguins?
So we've been, you know, me and a lot of our partners within Pudgy have been building brands for the last, 8 to 9 years at the highest level. I mean, some of my biggest wins is I brought Von Dutch back in 2020. We made North America's fastest growing toy company in Gel Blaster, scaled that to $100 million in revenue in about 14 months. And then prior to that, I actually spent and kind of made my career for 4 or 5 years monetizing social influence. So I built brands for some of the biggest celebrities and influencers. And so I really understood what it was like to, be around influencers, create influence. I knew what it was like to monetize IP and to create brand. And when you look at, the Pudgy Penguin and just NFTs in general, these are IPs. These are influencers in their own respect, right? Like the Pudgy Penguin is an influencer. I am creating and growing, a character of influence. And then I think where you can expand that and where you can monetize that in all these different product verticals, whether it's, toys or licensing or gaming, I felt like it was just something that was super natural to us. And so when I compared, our resumes and what we knew how to do, and I looked at some of the founding teams of some of these other successful projects, they just naturally didn't have the experience to go out and do these things, I think, the right way. Now, they had a lot of hype, they had a lot of momentum, but I think our success over the last 2.5 years has really shown like what real brand building, looks like and what that can do for communities and for, these collectibles versus what I think you saw on the other side for the last 2.5 years, which is once the hype and the craziness, kind of died down, most projects have no clue what they're doing and they're kind of running around with their head cut off. And so, call it luck, call it whatever you want to call it, but I'm thankful that things shook out the way that they did, and here we are today.
Oh, I think I'm not I don't have any expertise in branding or marketing, but yeah, but I think as a non-expert, I think the brand or getting influence is quite random. It feels like to me. And so looking back to the success of Pudgy's, do you think it was pretty much intentional or the
Was
success?
it just luck?
Not just a luck, but yeah. Do you have any special secret?
So there's two facets to this. On one side, I think the IP is super magical. I think people love penguins. I think Pudgy Penguins is the best looking penguin ever made, right? So I think from like there's magic there, and naturally that's what gravitated me towards these penguins when they were $50, $100, and I started buying them. There was something just instinctual and in my gut that told me like, hey, this has promise and this can succeed. But on the other side of it, success is manufactured and it's earned outside of like you just really getting lucky and hitting a trend. But if you look at the Pudgy Penguin success pattern and growth pattern, I mean, it is a steady stairway up, right? It's just not this like random moment where it just goes, parabolic, whether it's on the social or the NFT side. It's really manufactured and being able to like live and breathe, with these influencers for 4 or 5 years early in my career, I learned how to manufacture that type of virality. So, to go viral on Instagram or TikTok, like there's a formula to that, right? There's a playbook to that. That's just not completely random. Like, what's your hook? What's your angle? Are you optimizing for shares or likes or comments? The algorithm always benefits shares over anything else. So a lot of our content is share oriented. It's something that you'd probably send to another person. And in most cases, a significant other, like a lot of our social strategies is predicated around that. So there's definitely a formula to finding success, to going viral and to gaining momentum. But I definitely think the hardest part is the magic, right? The magic that the actual character and the brand yields. And that, that I can't take credit for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then being a little bit more specifically, I saw the campaign that you purchased are doing. It was I cannot remember precisely, but it was a streamer, a game streamer, and he was not that famous, but yeah, Pudgy, I guess, commented or just funded.
Yeah,
and it goes viral.
Yeah,
and also there are other much things that goes viral with the Pudgys, and those kind of things are just driven from your, I don't know, instinct or that was pretty much calculated.
I think I won't take too much of a deep dive into there, but like, I've made my career off of my marketing ability. And, I'm not in the day-to-day on the marketing at Pudgy, but we have a team of, I think, some of the best marketers in the world. And that's really our expertise and where I think we excel. And thankfully, I think a huge part of crypto, and at least like on the NFT and on the token side, a lot of it is marketing. And so I say this all the time, but let the best marketer win. And I think I'm the best marketer in the space. And I say that humbly, but I think the data and the impressions and the metrics support that statement. So hopefully we continue on this tear and we find the success that I know we'll find.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Then, besides your marketing and branding ability, and then what did you see envision through the penguins? It means that what did you want to achieve through the penguins?
I think it was really those two goals that I think I mentioned earlier, which is like, I want Pudgy Penguins to be the face of penguins around the world. When you think penguins, it's my job to make sure that, in the next 12 to 24 months, a majority of people say Pudgy Penguins, right? And I think that's like what we want to achieve on the Web 2 side. I think penguins are enough of a loved character that if you can achieve that mind share, you can be in a really amazing spot from an IP perspective and what that can break through in Web 2. And on the crypto side, I want to be the face of, I want to be the mascot of crypto. I think this is super important because it's like at the end of the day, this is a crypto native brand. We don't want to lose our crypto native roots. And when you think about a brand or a mascot or a character representing crypto, there's no better mascot or character to represent the industry than Pudgy Penguins. I think everyone would agree with that, right? It is borderless. It is, universal. It is something that everybody can resonate with. It has a great message. It's not taboo. It's not intimidating. It's basically the greatest CTO, community takeover, that crypto's ever seen. It embodies all of the natural principles that I think have made crypto so great and why a lot of people gravitate towards this industry. And when you really embody and try to package up the potential for crypto and you were to package it, you would actually find that the Pudgy Penguin story and the lore and the character really embodies and has a lot of synergies between what I think crypto is trying to embody and what ultimately Pudgy's has embodied. And so it's up to me to tell that story better. And but I think most people, if you told them that statement and if they thought about it and really just spent a couple minutes really trying to dissect what that means, I think they would agree.
Pudgy Penguins was the first collection that went into Walmart. What does it mean for you?
Yeah, I think for us, we needed to prove, what the IP was capable of. And, it's really unheard of in the traditional IP space that a brand basically Pudgy Penguins has been around for 3 years. The first 8 months or first, call it 12 months, it was ran by a previous team. When we took it over, it was the beginning of a bear market. We really weren't able to do much for, 8, 9 months. And then, 7, 8 months after that, we were in Walmart. And then, 4 months after that, we were in Target. So basically the Pudgy Penguins brand was only really being built by us for 12 months before we got into Walmart. Not only that, we showed up in a giant pallet program in Q4, which is the most primed real estate in the entire, Walmart, retail location. And we were one of, 4 other companies next to Star Wars and Squishmallow and Pokemon to have that type of real estate.
Wow.
And I think that type of activation and how we came out of the gates being literally such an infant brand, I think speaks volumes to, I think, the culture and some of the success we've had up until this point. And so it's not only Walmart, now we're in Target, and I think we're just crossing about 10,000 retailers around the world. And it's something that I think I'm super proud about. I think it creates a huge moment and a huge opportunity for holders and for crypto curious or crypto aficionados and connoisseurs to really feel proud about the industry. I mean, when have you ever seen such a beautiful story the way that Pudgy Penguins really encompasses and encapsulates? I think it's not the all and be all, but I think it's one of the great first steps that I think this industry needs to take to really legitimize in the eyes of the everyday consumer what is possible with crypto native brand and crypto native IP. And I think that's probably one of many things that I would point to as to why I think we are the premier IP within the industry and ultimately the mascot for crypto.
So the plushies in Walmart,
Yeah.
were they mostly bought by the holders, or were there general consumers?
So in like 13, 14 months now, since we've been in retail and since we kind of started our toys, we've sold 1.5 million toys.
Wow.
I think we would all agree there's not 1.5 million active people in crypto, at least during that time. And I would, Pudgy Penguins technically has, 30,000 unique holders and not more than that. Now, I think they were really huge in kind of jump-starting that culture. I mean, I know a ton of holders will buy like 60 little igloos and then hand them off to like, their son's friends at birthday parties. And then their friends are now buying igloos. So there's something to be said about that network effect. And I definitely pay a lot of respect and have a lot of gratitude to the community for kind of jump-starting us. But I think there's also something to be said and credit to be given to the actual IP itself. Like we put the IP front and center in the world's biggest retailers. And we're selling so many units on a daily basis and weekly basis and monthly basis that I think the IP is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially today. So early on, like when we first did that Walmart sprint, I mean, I have to give tons of credit to crypto and the Pudgy Penguin community for stepping up to the plate. I mean, in 2023, was it 2023? 2020, yeah, in 2023, I don't think there was a more viral crypto campaign than that. Like, I mean, the impressions we got on that, like my post alone got 2.5 million views. The Pudgy Penguin post got like 3 million views. Everyone and their mom was posting about it. And it quite literally like took over the entire timeline in a way that I think, that was the moment of the year there. And so a lot of, I got to give a lot of credit for that first initial push to the entire community, just Pudgy Penguins and crypto alike. But right now, I just got the numbers. I could read it to you, but last week we sold 20,000 units. This week we sold 19,000 units. Like, you don't see Pudgy Penguin holders posting, as you're a holder yourself, like you don't see Pudgy Penguin holders posting that they're in Walmart like they were, a year ago. So the fact that I'm clocking and we're selling, 20,000 units every single week is pretty impressive. And I think speaks to like the breakthrough that the brand is having in the real world.
Yeah, because it's cute.
Yeah.
And all the kids that have the penguins will grow up to be holders.
Yeah.
And Pudgy toys are not just toys.
Yep.
You've mentioned that you use the word Trojan horsing.
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean?
Yeah. So every toy that we sell, there's really two facets that make it really crypto native. Because on its face, like toys and that story, it's amazing. But I think if you look under the hood, there's really a beautiful crypto story that's being told here. I think the first one is that every toy that we're selling is actually an NFT that a holder holds. And we've actually licensed that IP directly from the holder, alchemized it, meaning we brought that NFT to life through a product. And every time it sells in Walmart or Target, one of those holders is accruing a royalty payment that gets paid out every single year. So this idea that, Pudgy Penguins is on pace to building $1 billion IP. And when we build that $1 billion IP, our first believers, our early adopters, our NFT holders have a chance to participate in that success and in that growth. And I think that's just like a really beautiful story that kind of reinvents the meta around brand and consumer, which is how Disney and Pixar and Mattel and Hasbro run their business, to, hey, the Pudgy Penguins is reinventing the entire IP business by saying, hey, look, yes, we're a brand and yes, there's a consumer, but hey, our early believers, our top collectors, our NFT holders come in the middle and it becomes brand, participant, right? And then consumer. And I think this is like an entire reinvention of how IP is being built. And ultimately, I think as more people kind of learn about what that looks like and how that experience actually works, I would be hard pressed to think that, somebody who's collecting Squishmallow would, spend more time and energy on a Squishmallow than they would on a Pudgy Penguin, knowing that there's so much more upside for a fan and for a collector within the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem than pretty much any other ecosystem in the world, because they don't really offer that participation mechanism for somebody to actually be a part of it in a meaningful way. The other side of it is every toy that we sell comes with a birth certificate or a QR code. And on that QR code, it basically points you to Pudgy World. Pudgy World, you input an email and a password. You're given a custody wallet through a custody wallet solution. And then you're asked to redeem 3 to 5 digital traits that you basically can redeem through a gasless experience. So a customer can go to Walmart, buy a $10 toy, scan the QR code, make an email and a password, redeem the 3 to 5 traits that are NFTs, put it on their forever Pudgy Penguin. And all of that is on chain and done in a way that just it's completely abstracted. Like they don't really know that they're in crypto. They don't really know that these are NFTs, but it gets them familiar with digitally collecting.
Yeah.
So not only are we, telling a story of just perseverance and an underdog story that is Pudgy Penguins, we are bringing the community along with the ride. We are, paying homage to them because we're not here without them. And we're also onboarding people on chain, leveraging this Trojan horse that is this toy. And so when you take that full package and that full story, this is not just toys on the shelf of Walmart or pallets in the middle of the store. This is really just like a reinvention of how brands have been built just in general. Like this is why I think we've seen so much success, is because on its face, it's like, can you work your tail off and maybe do one of those things? Yes. But all three of those things and being able to pull it off in the time frame that we were able to pull it off, the thing I'm most proud about is the fact that it's like, look, take all the things that you see at Pudgy Penguins, compare it to every other NFT project, see how much every other NFT project has raised, and then look how much money we've raised, right? Both from community and venture. Mind you, we haven't taken a single dollar from community outside of, selling products and toys, which is their prerogative for buying. Now, mind you, I think some of them are doing really great work today, and I may rue those words, but I think as of today, nobody's been able to break through the way that we've been able to break through. And though I think they're on an amazing path, and I actually think we were the ones that put all of them on notice. So, it might sound a little arrogant, but I honestly think, like, don't underestimate the network effects of us showing up in the space and doing what we did, because I think it made everybody look at their founders and look at their teams and be like, what are you doing? Because this kid came in with nothing, right? Did it with nothing, and it's putting on a clinic in multiple different facets of the industry. And it's time for you to step up, and now they're stepping up. And so I'm really proud and honored to be alongside some of these founders now. I think in the beginning I was kind of scratching my head and being like, what are you guys doing? But I think some of them are now doing amazing work, and it's great for us because now I feel the competitive fervor. For so long I just thought, like, dude, you guys are just not knowing what you're doing. And I think the Pudgy story is a great one, because not only was it huge for our community, huge for our space, huge for what we were to accomplish for the holders, I think it was huge for anybody who believes and collects NFTs, because I think the notice that we put on the industry, I think it made everybody seriously look at their organizations, seriously look at their roadmaps and their vision, and I think it totally readjusted what everybody was doing prior to us coming on the scene.
I think it's undoubtable that you guys are doing really well. But on the other side, what's the biggest risk for Pudgy Penguins?
Oh, this is a great question. I love when people switch it up and ask these challenging questions. I think the biggest risk for us, and I'm completely honest about this, but I've jumped ahead of where I think this was going. I think we took a lot of risks going really big, really fast, and it's like driving a sports car. You're going 100 miles an hour, and you're either going to get to the destination faster than everybody else, or you're going to crash out. Right. And then, like, you're going to swerve and you're going to go and you might, get ahead of somebody in the short term, but then, once you crash out, they'll pass you. And I think I started to see that. Like, I started to get hire more and more experienced IP veterans within the company. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I built IP with the best of them. And there's actually like a really thin line in which you have to tread, which is like the integrity of the brand long term, and then also, winning the NFT race. So me, I'm super competitive, right? Like it's actually a huge pro, but also a huge con, and I know it. And I'm always optimizing for the headline. I'm always optimizing for winning. And to be frank, I care about Web3 and the NFT side of the business above all else. I believe that because that's what got me into the space. That's what put me here. That's what even got us up until this point, because those early community members are the people that rally behind us and have gotten us here. So I'm just always like Web3 NFT first, brand integrity second. And what I realized was we took some really big swings at bat, and thank God they didn't bite us in the butt. But if I continued on the pace that we've been going, I know we would have put ourselves in a situation where we wouldn't be able to sustain the growth or the deals that we were trying to ship. And that would have put us in a really bad spot where I think the integrity of the brand would have been compromised. And so I actually I started to really critically think on this, and I told the team, I told them exactly what I just told you now. And I went to our chief creative officer, who's Peter, and Peter is super about brand integrity. He's super about like the longevity of things in a way that I'm not focused on. And he has now the reins of where the Pudgy Penguins brand is going. I bring things up to the table. I tell them, hey, look, I want to do this Netflix thing or this Hulu thing or, this partnership or this collaboration. But he's ultimately the guy who makes the decision because he's in charge of the long-term success of the brand, right? Do I, if, Peter brought this up the other day, but he's like, we just got the Walmart Business Award for 2025, meaning we're going to be in Walmart up until 2025, which is great. It means, they reordered the second time, they reordered the third time, and now we know there's going to be 2 more orders up until the end of the next year. But he told me, he was like, look, Luke, I don't know if I want to be in Walmart in 2026. And I was like, well, I want to be in Walmart until 2026, right? Because I like Walmart, it makes us money and it's great for the bottom line. But he's like, yeah, but, maybe we want to go a little more, in this direction. And I want to go, I want to go more Asia and Pop Mart and things like this. And I'm like, okay, look, at the end of the day, you decide what you need to do. Like, I'm going to make sure that the company is making money, that we have money, and that everybody, and that we're moving forward and the NFT and the Web3 side is winning. But I'm not the best person to build and to dictate where IP is going in the long term. I'm not a natural Walt Disney, right? I know that Peter's more of a Walt Disney than myself. And so I'm just really handing off the reins to them. But I think that's where things could go wrong when you ask me is I was so focused on winning the NFT race because it felt like for so long, we were doing so much good work and everybody was like, oh, my metaverse. And and I'm like, all right, dude, I'm screaming into a void. And then now I think we're the undeniable, regardless of what floor price is in the short term, I think common consensus is we are the team to bet on in NFTs. We are the community that is seeing the most success. And I think that's just indicative in all of the right metrics. But I think the biggest risk that I saw maybe 6-7 months ago before we made this transition was crashing out. I think today, I'm gonna variables I can't control, right? So market conditions, would it feel good to go back to 3 Ethereum or something like that? It would not, right? I would do everything in my power to make sure that's not the case, but that would set us back, right? Just because naturally, our community, whether you like it or not, the elephant in the room is these things are worth a lot of money. People invest a lot of money, have a lot of money in these things. And, their passion to go up and show up to community events, when there's a $30,000 NFT versus a $5,000 NFT is night and day, right? I'm much more motivated with a $30,000 NFT to go and slap stickers in the subway and go, tell my mom and my friends about the company versus a $4,000 or $5,000 NFT. Yeah, that's great. And that's not easy to do, but people aren't motivated in the same way. So, but again, I can't control that, right? I can show up every day, I can work my tail off, I can hustle, I can do all of the things that I'm doing, but market conditions, Bitcoin goes to 20 grand and Ethereum goes to $1,000 and everybody's screw the space and they've lost so much money and they're just trying to scramble money from every different, I can't control that, right? But I think that would set us back. So outside of, crashing out, which I think we really have a good finger on the pulse and I would bet 99.9% that won't happen because I jumped ahead of that 6 months ago. 6 months ago, that was a problem. And then maybe, some outside variables in terms of setting us back a couple of times. But the point of the matter is I'm here for the next, 10, 15 years. I'm not going away. I know how to make this work. I understand the industry like the back of my hand. It's second nature for me. So, even if we take bumps in the road, it's not going to stop me from winning. I'm confident that the path to success is clear and it's not if, it's when.
Mm. Wow.
Luca, you are a professional acquirer. You recently acquired Frame.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in knowing what I'm good at and knowing what I'm not good at. And I think for us, truthfully speaking, Pudgy Penguins has a lot of mass market products, including the Pudgy World that powers the toys. That is a part of many that are powered by a bunch of different L2s. And when kind of exploring the L2 landscape, I kind of came to a conclusion that there was a huge gap in the market in terms of chains hyper-focusing on consumer. Now, the reason why chains don't hyper-focus on consumer, or they might say they do, but to truly be a consumer chain, you can't also be a general purpose blockchain, right? Because consumer and general purpose are not synonymous. They actually mean two different things. And so to build a consumer first chain, there's compromises that you have to make that a general purpose blockchain simply can't make. And we're a consumer brand. And everything that Pudgy Penguins and the Igloo's been doing has been consumer first. And our whole goal has been trying to push consumer crypto to the masses. And I think up until this point, we've been the leaders in that category within the industry. But when exploring on like what is it going to look like to find a chain partner to take our ecosystem products and our mission and our endeavors to the next level, it seemed glaringly clear that nobody was really focusing on a consumer and solving the problems that consumer adoption or on-chain adoption was kind of presenting. And so from our perspective, I thought to myself, I was like, look, there's a couple of things here. We can either wait for somebody to build the chain that fulfills our needs and kind of positions themselves in a way that I think is going to give us the success that we need. We can try to make one of these chains work, which we've been doing for the last 2 years, or we can go and do this ourselves. The problem with doing it ourselves is like, again, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm bad at, and I'm not going to go and build a blockchain myself because I don't build blockchains, nor does our team build blockchains. And we have a lot of different businesses within the Pudgy Penguin business already. That's just not a lift that I would feel comfortable taking on. However, the opportunity I thought was huge. And I believe that consumer crypto is the final frontier. I believe the consumer chain is going to be a top 3 chain in the world. And whoever owns that category and wins that race is going to have and yield huge opportunity for community members and team members and investors alike. And I thought to myself, well, I need to find a group. Well, I actually didn't think of it like this, but subsequently that was the bottleneck. So I actually knew this for the last year, but I was at dinner in New York. I met Saigar was actually at that dinner with me, and he was just talking about some of the pain points that he was experiencing with Frame. So Frame has 3 co-founders. They're a Chad team of, I think, some of the best developers in the space, at least in my opinion. I mean, these guys have been winning hackathons for the last 4 or 5 years and just making and innovating on chain for a very long time. And I understood his pain points. And his pain points was like, look, I'm not a community guy. I'm not a marketing guy, right? Like we have a lot of success. We have this NFT thesis around this creator economy and this chain that's going to power this creator economy. And he had built a lot of amazing tools. But I think 2 things were glaringly obvious to him. One, there's a side of the business that, they're not necessarily experts at. And there's another side that of like their vision that I felt like had a ceiling to it. And, on our side, we do community, we do branding, and we do marketing, I think, better than anybody else in the space. And we had a vision for something that I thought was a lot bigger than what I think Frame was tackling. I think Frame, tackled a portion of this vision. But I think what I was thinking about, I think was a lot grander and a lot bigger. And so we started going back and forth, and I just kind of came to them. I was like, dude, I think, it was an acquisition, but really look at it like an acqui-hire because, a lot of things are different in terms of that build. And I was just like, dude, like, I think it just makes sense to merge forces. And like the sum of our parts are stronger together than they are separate. And, you're going to be incredibly successful. I mean, the beauty, he had a $20 million term sheet at, a 9-figure valuation for Frame that he was going to accept from, a tier 1 VC. On our side of the spectrum, we, had huge opportunities to kind of do other, we had $25 million on the table from, some of the biggest L2s. And we just thought to ourselves, I was like, dude, I think we can do this. And so you guys do, you guys solve all the problems that we need solved to go and do this. And we solve all the problems that you guys, had with like your short stint in Frame. And I think together we can win and own the consumer chain. And the opportunity for that person, like I said, that owns the consumer chain, I think yields unbelievable rewards and opportunity for everybody involved, team members and community members alike. And that was the birth of Abstract.
Yeah. Can you be more specific on how why Abstract can be same as a consumer chain?
Yep.
It means, what's the difference between generalized chain?
Yeah, so I think general purpose chains do a lot of different things, right? There's, AI, there's data, there's, infrastructure, and I think different tech formats, DeFi, like there's a lot of different priorities when you're building general purpose. When you're building a consumer blockchain, there's one priority, which is making the best consumer experience possible. And the best consumer experience possible is not this fragmented cesspool of 10 different things to do. It's really curated, it's really personalized, it's really customized, and it ultimately gives users an amazing 0 to 1 experience. But ultimately, it is kind of built around a category and a niche. And so for Abstract, I think our first 12 to 24 months are going to be predicated around fun, right? I want to make the most fun place in crypto. And ultimately, I want that place to not only be the most fun place in crypto, but I want it to be one of the most fun places on the internet in general. And so I want you to be able to go to this platform with the desire to have fun and be able to either play games or make bets or participate in different cool novel mechanisms, whether it's like through trading or new AI tooling that's on chain, but really just with one core KPI, which is like if you're building an application and it's fun, and you want it to be on this platform, that you are going to build fun on this chain, and that this ecosystem, at least in the early days, is going to be predicated around fun. And that entire funnel around fun, we are able to kind of focus on that consumer experience in a way that I think general purpose blockchains will never be able to focus on. And so one example of this is, AGW, which is the Abstract Global Wallet, being able to take, AGW, put it into some sort of app aggregator, kind of think of it as, this might be a little bit too much alpha, but think of it as like Twitch meets Google Play Store, people being able to go into this platform, log in once, be logged into all the respective apps, and just really doing one thing better than everybody else. And in this case, it's fun, and fun is consumer. And ultimately, once you have millions of people in that ecosystem of fun, you can then upsell them on DeFi and savings accounts and identity and payments and all of these different things. But I think to build a consumer first blockchain is to be hyper focused on a consumer experience, and you have to make consumers you have to put consumers first above all else. Meaning, if you have a general purpose blockchain, your priority is probably decentralization above all else, right? But if you understand the decentralized experience, it's not a positive one, right? Have you ever been on a decentralized, a true decentralized social media? I mean, look, a version of that today is 4chan. Like 4chan is not a place for the average person to go and consume content. Now, a couple percentage people in the world can go and resonate with that type of content, but the truth of the matter is blockchain has to resonate and has to be accessible to your local barista or your local, restaurateur or your mom or your dad or your brother or your daughter or your son, whatever it might be. Like it has to be accessible and easy for them. This idea that decentralization is the number one property, for blockchains above all else, right? Seems really counterintuitive to making a really positive consumer experience. And not to say that's not a priority. Like we definitely, a huge focus of ours is achieving decentralization, but it doesn't start and stop there, right? So I think it's just about, it's less of actually fundamentally, it's less of hey, we're doing different things on the technical side, even though there are some improvements that when building for a consumer chain, you do have to have certain technical benefits, and you have to position that in a way that obviously there's ways that you can make it help. But I actually think it's more of a fundamental mindset and goal in which you're kind of building towards versus if I'm a general purpose blockchain builder, I don't even know what direction to go in, right? Where do I just hope that somebody builds something great and they're it's great, I can lean in. It's I think you're also kind of seeing this with new chains. One chain that I love is Berachain, right? But Berachain is the fun DeFi chain. And now when you're going to go build DeFi, that's the place to go. And that's great. They're going to own DeFi in crypto and they're going to find huge success doing that. I want to own fun in crypto, right? And I want to be, I want to make that 0 to 1 consumer adoption, or that consumer journey and that onboarding flow the easiest that the world's ever seen. And I want to have, that's probably step 1. And then step 2 is creating the most impactful and most meaningful hub of fun that ultimately gets people excited and coming back every single day. And then step 3 is, once those, there's 4, 5, 10 million people on that platform, coming back every week, every month, you can then upsell them on different features. And so that's kind of how I look at like a consumer chain versus, maybe a general purpose or some of these other, mindsets that I think people are kind of looking at blockchains around.
Oh yeah. Do you think as a consumer focused chain,
Yep.
do you think there is a network effect that can, I don't know, establish for the applications? Because the question is the reason I question is because they are very much, I don't know, they can just duplicate many places or something. So I
Yep.
think that having a moat on the of the network effect would
Yep.
be, I think it was significant.
So this is interesting. This is going to piss some people off, at least like some certain builders that are building on the chain. But like anybody can deploy on Abstract, right? Like we're not controlling that, we're not gatekeeping that. But I think this hub that we're creating, which is like really where a lot of the innovation, a lot of the developments are going to come from the team side, is going to be predicated on a certain standard that you kind of have to achieve. So you have to be exclusive to us. You have to, have a certain quality of application that kind of hits certain marks. And ultimately, this is going to be the forward-facing mechanism in which we drive all of our traffic towards. So all of our Web3 and crypto traffic is going to go to this hub. All of our Web2 distribution, once I really put the marketing machine, wait till you guys see what I have cooking on the marketing side. I'm going to put an epic marketing machine, the likes of which crypto's never seen before, behind actually pushing this app store and the apps on this app store. But the key caveat is like, you have to earn your way to get there. You can't just deploy some half-baked, BS and hope to get on our app store, because that's not a positive consumer experience, right? Like the consumer has to go, just like you can't just deploy anything on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. That's not how that works. Like it has to hit a certain requirement, it has to have a certain loading time and speed and quality of graphics and things like that to ultimately make it and to get that distribution. And so we're thinking of the same thing. Like anybody can deploy on Abstract, and I hope that they do, and I'm rooting for their success. But you're going to have to earn your way to get on this app aggregator, on this app store, to ultimately get the distribution that we're going to kind of be pointing all the traffic and all of our marketing expertise towards.
I guess one more thing is that I think I love consumer applications, and also I hope that the adoption could be much bigger than that. But the term itself is pretty much vague right now. I think consumer crypto itself is very vague, and also being fun is a little bit vague, I guess. So I wonder what is the a little bit more specific user type or user experience do you expect more?
I love that you asked this. I actually just published an article. You can go to abs.xyz, and I kind of wrote about it. I said, like, what is consumer crypto? Because it is pretty vague. I actually break down consumer crypto in probably 3 tranches. And so I think the first tranche is discretionary spending. The second tranche is necessary spending. And the third tranche is essential spending. We'll really talk about the first tranche because it's like really what we're optimizing for around fun. But discretionary spending to me is a place that somebody goes to spend money when they're thinking about their leisurely time and they want to go and have, they basically want to take their excess capital and their excess time to go spend money. So fun is not, when you think app store, you probably naturally think games, but I think discretionary spending encompasses a couple categories. It can encompass gaming. It can encompass, trading. It can encompass, different verticals within, digital collectibles and IP. There's a couple different verticals in which I think discretionary spending kind of encompasses, and which I kind of want to curate. I think from our perspective, that I think is going to be the most disruptive first step into getting people within the consumer realm. And then once they're in that realm, again, once we find success 24 months from now, you can expand to necessary spending. And then from there, you can expand to essential spending as you can kind of continue to grow. But I think for us, if you wanted to get more specificity around, what is fun to me, I would probably take it a layer deeper and say, discretionary spending predicated around fun, and what are things that kind of encompass discretionary spending and fun that people do online, right? They do social, right? They do gaming, they do collecting and collectibles, right? And how you curate this, and really where we're going to find product market fit, like it's going to take some A/B testing. It's going to take a little bit of data, aggregation and understanding exactly where different people are going, and we'll obviously hone into that. But I think the first tranche is going to be around this discretionary spending behavior and those couple categories that I mentioned.
That was actually my question. Will there be no DeFi?
I think so. We're debating this now internally. there might be like a degen section where it's like you've got to speak at least to some current audience. But like I said, like if you want to go create the next great DeFi primitive, like I've taken like maybe 300 ecosystem calls, and I did this simply because I wanted to know what builders wanted. And it's like, this is me just talking all the time with people, like gets me to really understand an industry and a sector. And I took so many calls, and of the 300 people that I probably spoke to, I sent 100 of them away. I said, dude, look, I'm going to let you down here, right? I'm not going to support you the way that you want. And ultimately what builders want above all else is they want product market fit. And what I think our biggest competitive edge is we're going to bring a marketing machine to crypto that it's never seen before. And we're going to bring a marketing machine to this ecosystem that I think no other ecosystem has seen before. But that marketing machine only knows how to sell fun. It only knows how to sell virality. It doesn't know how to sell, loops and swaps on this curve gauges. Like, doesn't know how to sell. I don't know how to sell that to regular people. And I think you asked a question, I didn't fully answer it, but it's like, what is our target demographic? I actually think we're really honing in on Gen Z and Gen Alpha and really tapping into that. The kids, as they're getting younger, they're just getting way more digitally savvy. And this is where I think we're really going to tap in and break through in a super meaningful way. When you think about it, Gen Z has spends a ton of money on discretionary spending. They're super digitally native. And again, like, there's tons of boomer chains out there. And it's actually a little unorthodox because in crypto, a lot of the big whales are boomers and they have a ton of size, and a lot of chains tend to pander to the 10, 15, 20 people with size. And I'm going left when everyone's going right. And I'm saying, like, look, I'm going after this whole new generation of young money who is super active and loves to participate in these things, but they don't have a really clear and simple way to kind of interact. And so I want to meet them on TikTok. I'm meeting them on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and all these streaming platforms. And I'm leaning into like my marketing expertise and my Rolodex of guys and gals that know how to speak to that audience in a way that I think nobody in crypto knows how to. And so I think from our perspective, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, how do you curate, applications that are fun and viral, predicated around discretionary spending that fulfill their wants and needs?
I have to ask, are you Gen Z?
I'm Gen Z, yeah. I'm 26.
Good to know.
You said that there was a phase in the adoption of consumer and I don't know, being fun, and also being necessary. That was a phase 2, I guess. I think these are pretty similar to the other sectors in tech. Almost internet and mobile also go through the similar path. And how do you think that this jump would happen from the being fun, just being fun, to the necessary?
I think it's a great question, right? It's like, it's kind of, think of it as like banking. Like, I am in a bank and I am, using it to hold and store my money. And then eventually now I can send, digital payments from one place to another. I think from us, it's like, okay, if I have 5 million people that all have wallets, that all have money in those wallets, that are all, playing and interacting within our ecosystem, one day it's really easy for me to kind of create a promotion and say, hey, do you want 6% on your dollars in your wallet? Click here, right? And then boom, you're now participating in DeFi, right? Where is that yield coming from? Like, that's, the Aave machine and the rest of the, I leave it up to those giga brains to figure out exactly where that money's coming from, but it's coming and it's safe. And, only obviously work with the best of the best in that respect. And then, maybe there's another thing where it's like, hey, this wallet that you're kind of spending all this time on, you can also send money to your friends. Like, here's a send money button, right? And so I think it's just about like unlocking features and just watching the user behavior around those features and seeing what they want and don't want. And then hopefully opening up more categories. Like, the beauty of like an app store style model is we're kind of going to start with like 6 or 7 categories, and then you can kind of open it up. Right. And then, people like it, people don't like it, people get confused. You can kind of split test and see, what that flow and what that experience is going to look like. But I think the first crack at it and just to like hyper focus our attention is going to be like, dude, I just need the most fun, the most viral applications on this chain. And then once we have that, there can be a bunch of different, and millions of people there. We can then explore as to what those different sectors and what those different verticals look like.
Additional question was that I said I think that there were experiments before abstract about the consumer applications. For example, I think the Frantech was just one moment for the consumer crypto, and but most of the experiments are failed. They busted. And what do you think they failed, and what's the hindrance for more adoption?
So my biggest assessment, and this is where like a lot of mentorship and guidance to come in. Once I'm done with my Asia trip, I'm really gonna get in the trench with a lot of the abstract builders, because I think there's a lot of builders in crypto that are like 80 to 85% of the way there, but they miss 10 to 15% of it, which is like the most important part, which is like the user journey. And some of the buttons are in the wrong places and they mean different things. Like a perfect example is like, why is create an account in crypto is create wallet? Like, that's so broken. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, everything should be create account or make a profile, and a wallet should be baked into that. Like, that's a perfect example of like, if I'm a Web 2 user, I'm gonna get stuck on create a wallet, right? Like, that's not familiar to me, versus like create account, super familiar. So that one tweak increases your probability of success by like 2%, but everyone says connect wallet. Like, the first thing, like if I'm not crypto native and I see a consumer application, the first thing I see is connect wallet, it's broken, right? And I also think fundamentally a lot of consumer applications in crypto have broken business models, right? And so we won't take too much of a deep dive into here, because like I'm super passionate about this and I'll just ramble on for like 30 minutes, but they are not looking at business the same way that traditional people are looking, because crypto is really about squeezing the juice, right? Friendtech, 5% fee, 10% fees, 5% to the creator, 5% to the team. Like, that's just an insane transaction fee. Like that, you're leaning into like everything crypto's not supposed to be when you're putting such a big tax on it, right? Well, in general, like, a typical tax in consumers, 2.9%, maybe 30 cents. And that's, paid by the business, actually not paid by the consumer. But the reason why they do that is because there's only 10,000 or 20,000 active people in crypto. So you're trying to squeeze those users for as many fees as possible. It's just a broken business model. And somebody just has to take the risk to go and be like, and builders just have to start taking the risk and be like, hey, we just have to start shipping more efficient business models. But the key is like, they're not going to do that because there's no influx of users. And so ultimately it's not in their best interest to do that. But if I can get them millions of users and millions of or at least millions of eyeballs coming into this aggregator and they're on it, that at least gives them a chance to go and run an efficient consumer crypto business rather than this like egregious extraction model, which is kind of how these things have been built on top of. And just in general, and this is probably my biggest frustration, is like the bar just isn't there yet. Like the problem with crypto, and it's as big as Achilles' heel, is just rewarded too much average builds. Like too many people building average things from like an executional standpoint. Like they're creative in how they're building it, and you can tell there's a lot of critical thinking, but the build is average, right? The buttons are slow, it lags, like it breaks, it's choppy. Like we can't reward that anymore, right? So for us, it's like, you're not making it to my app store and getting my distribution if you can't even do the simple stuff. Like I'm not rewarding like shitty builds. Like you've got to be good at what you're doing, because that doesn't scale. Like Friendtech was great in principle, but it needed to feel like Patreon or OnlyFans, right? It felt like a 2004 flip phone Razor. It felt terrible, right? So of course that's never going to work, or that's going to scale, because the build is not friendly for consumers. And this is just where like the difference has to come in, is like somebody has to be thinking like, oh, why haven't we broken into mass? Because it doesn't feel good for mass. Where it's like, hey, my ecosystem's not launching. I'm not mainnetting. I'm not doing any of this stuff until I have a cohesive ecosystem that feels good for mass. And then we open up the floodgates.
I think that you said that your target demographics, and I think that I understand that abstract as a more like a agency for the good application, good consumer applications, and I think it is more like a strategy position rather than something like technical or feature like position. So I wonder what is your strategy for acquiring new user? I mean, new Gen Z or Gen Alpha user.
You said that. I think our builds are really going to be focused on two things. Like from a technical perspective, it's going to be making that 0 to 1 the easiest and the most seamless possible. And also this aggregator and this hub to be just so intertwined and so easy. Like imagine a world where I go to this app store. Like let me give you a peek into the vision. I go into this app store. I make an account. I create an account. Email, password. I have my wallet, but I also can get custody of that. It's not a custody wallet. I have custody of that wallet if I want to take a deeper dive. I then go and I click on Pudgy World. I'm instantly logged in. I'm playing Pudgy World. I click out of it, and then I'm playing Pudgy TCG by OCAP Games. Oh, wow, that's amazing. And then I'm playing, another game, instantly logged in. So I'm maneuvering in and out. And then I go to this rewards tab, and I see all of these points that I accrued in Pudgy World. And then I see these points I accrued in Pudgy TCG. And then I see these points I accrued on Myriad, which is like a prediction market. And then I'm like, okay, so now I'm earning here. And now there's also like a streaming section where everybody's live streaming, and there's a bunch of creators streaming. And now I'm gonna go watch these streamers stream. Oh wow, that looks like a fun game. I'm gonna go click on it. Boom, I'm instantly logged in. And now I'm playing the same game that the streamer's playing, all based on this one hub. And then now the game that I just went to go play that the streamer was playing, I now have some more points. And then a couple months later, wait, these points are converting into coins, and these coins are converting into dollars. Let me swap these coins for some dollars really quick. Oh, wow, that's crazy. And then let me put these dollars into my bank account. Oh, wow. That flow in its totality is the best flow pot. And that's where the engineering is going to come in. Like, that's the focus of the engineering team, Saigar and team, is like, how do I make that cohesive? So on its face, it feels and sounds really good. It's actually a lot more complicated. Like the API pulls and making sure that's fully integrated, that's not going to be an easy beast. Like, these guys are in for a grind, but that's not my part, right? The part that I think, but it's synonymous, because if they don't do that, my part's not going to work. So my part is, how do I just get this machine going, right? How do I get all the top creators and influencers and celebrities going to those streams and streaming that content? How do I get, millions of views every single day across different social channels with thousands of different social media accounts on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook and on YouTube, all pointing to this app store? How do I take, this ecosystem that right now is, traditional, L2 and L1 ecosystem, just completely waste money out the wazoo? You'd be shocked to see how much money these guys are wasting. These guys are burning money for nothingness, for UFC sponsorships and soccer jersey sponsorship. Literally, they don't know where to spend their money. Pudgy Penguins marketing budget every month is like 60 grand. You see how many views I'm clocking in for 60 grand a month? Give me $1 million a month. I promise you it'll blow your socks off. I will get 10 million people going to this app store, with $1 million a month, right? And the beauty of these chains and these ecosystems is like, if I can make the right request to the DAO, like, obviously, like, anybody participating in the ecosystem, I think, is going to trust us for our word and, like, doing things and going to vote for our proposals as we present them. But imagine putting that machine behind a marketing machine rather than just go wasting it on a bunch of nonsense that doesn't do anything for anybody, right? Because the difference between us is like, the next chain's $10 million is my $250,000, right? That's just because, again, I'm a Gen Z elite internet marketer. And that's what it is, right? Yeah. And my friends and my partners are Gen Z elite internet marketers. And these are internet businesses and internet applications that need elite internet marketing. They don't need sponsorships on jerseys, right? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't do anything for anybody. It's a waste of money. You might as well light it on fire. I wish people would give the money to me, and I would just, it better be served to me, because at least I'd be happier, right? But the point of the matter is like, it's going to be a digital masterclass, and I'm not going to get into the semantic, people are watching. There's competitors going to be watching this. Competitors are going to be watching this, So like, you're going to see it, and by the time you see it, it'll be too late, right? Like, once people really start seeing this machine in place, it'll be way too late for you. So I'll keep a little bit of the how I'm going to do that in my back pocket, but that's ultimately kind of how we're looking at that flywheel, and ultimately how we think that's going to work.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So you're talking to a lot of builders, applications. What's the red flag for you?
The red flag is crypto builders have been conditioned to build in a certain mindset that isn't the right. It isn't, and it's the reason why we haven't broken through, right? Everybody believes, like again, like, nobody is thinking about like the obvious. And the problem is like, consumer applications are all out there. Like, I'm not asking you people are not reinventing the wheel. People are just speaking to the crypto power users because they've the only time people have been rewarded has been catering and pandering to those power users, right? You see very few successes in crypto outside of like the OpenSeas of the world and the pump dot funds, where people have actually, and protocols and builders have actually been able to make an absorbent amount of money, pandering to mass. A majority of crypto builders have been pandering to, a subsection of power users, which make them all the money. And so I think like there needs to be a mindset shift. And again, like after this Asia tour, like my number one priority is getting in the trench with them and just saying like, hey, like don't get inspired by this guy, this crypto protocol or this app. Get inspired by this number one app on the Apple App Store, right? Like what are they doing, and replicate that language and that positioning and that messaging rather than just trying to reinvent some sort of crypto native wheel. Because this is the problem. Crypto native, and speaking to the crypto native, you can appeal and they will understand it, and you will have a TAM of, call it, 1 million people. But speaking to Web 2, you have an infinite TAM, and the crypto native will also understand it because they're also regular people, right? So it doesn't make any sense to be shipping and building products for Web 3 folks, right? And that language and that framing and that messaging speaking to them, because in reality, like, Web 3 folks are Web 2 folks, and they do understand all the language that Web 2 folks understand because they're not aliens. They're not like, they're regular people too. So why anybody would build specifically for the crypto native and speak to them and them only is such a flaw and such an error. And I think how we've been conditioned to build in the space, but it's because, again, the space has rewarded that behavior, right? But it's time for a paradigm shift. And we're going to be the ones to shift that paradigm. There's a couple other builders out there. I mean, there's some, now that I'm in the, understanding the chain game, there's a couple teams out there that are putting on a clinic. I think there's a lot of teams that, I mean, I would say 99% of teams that I think have no clue what they're doing. But there's the 1% that do have a clue what they're doing. It's incredibly impressive, and it's great because, like, finally I feel like, okay, now we have something that we can that's gonna, a North Star and something to compete with. So
yeah. I totally agree with your point, but I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, of course.
And I think listening to your answers, I just got wondered why it should be crypto, because the brand and also user experience, just you said that Web 2 not a Web 3 native perspective. So these kind of things like I don't know why why does it need to be a blockchain?
Yeah, and this is why I go after discretionary spending first, because there's actually a slew of things. So when you building fun in Web 2, there's actually a lot of gatekeeping and barriers to entry there. Fun, for example, most things that are fun in Web 2 have higher risk profiles. Higher risk profiles means as a business, I pay higher payment processing fees. Payment processing fees on high risk profile, businesses can go as high as 11, 12%, which is a huge fee for the business to pay. In crypto, it's pennies, right? That alone is a huge cataclysm to build fun in crypto versus not. There's also borderless liquidity. Like building fun in America is a lot different than building fun in Asia in terms of like restrictions and being able to access that. The beauty about crypto is all you need is an internet connection, a VPN, and you can have fun, right? And that's not the case for Web 2 applications. Like a viral Web 2 fun app in Asia can't necessarily go and break through in America. And so adding this borderless liquidity to the equation, I think, is really exciting. Fun also naturally, I think, speaks to a monetary policy that I think is interesting. Making money is fun, right? And I think being able to add the idea of being able to earn something, I think, is also super interesting and adds an interesting lever. And also, fun is probably the most competitive market in the entire world, right? The CACs are through the roof, meaning the customer acquisitions are through the roof. What does crypto do best? You can create things out of thin air that kind of create a flywheel and an incentive mechanism for people to actually to kind of subsidize that huge CAC. And then once you have something that's truly fun and works, that flywheel goes, and then you can organically spread once you have that user base. And then, there's more to that. But to answer your question, that's why I like going after discretionary spending first, because there's a lot of things that crypto rails solves around building fun applications or things predicated around discretionary spending that Web 2 today has a lot of blockers around, right? Most things that are fun too, like most people who've known me for long before my crypto years, I mean, I've had millions of dollars locked in payment processors. I've had PayPal literally wire themselves $250,000 out of my account and pay themselves it, right? Craziness, right? But because you're treading this line of fun and these products that, ultimately optimize for some sort of behavior, like you are at the end of the day, you're at the mercy of the institution. And there's only and because a lot of people building for fun know that, there's only so far, they haven't really been able to push the boundary the way they wanted to, because they know at some point, the payment processor and the institution's going to come in and be like, nope, it's done, right? And I think that's ultimately a huge handicap, and why I think discretionary spending and fun, I think, are there's a lot of more reasons to that, but that's why I think it's also going to be really disruptive for Web 2 builders and creates a unique value proposition for people to be like, yeah, you're right, I should probably go build this application here because I won't have to deal with the same nonsense that I do in Web 2.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I think this is my last question, and I think there were pretty much several cycles in crypto and blockchain, and I think we are not quite have much time to achieve the adoption, really, because time are pretty much ticking right now. So how do you think, when is the adoption happens, or through the abstract, or
When mass adoption.
yeah?
I think it happens when we start mainnetting, and hopefully it happens before. Like you look at the Solana ecosystem. I mean, that ecosystem has really figured it out. I think the problem with Solana, at least from my perspective, is the discovery, right? Like they have a lot of things figured out, but the discovery there is just like there's no discovery, right? Like I don't, if I'm outside of Little Pump telling me to go buy a meme coin and teaching me how to download Phantom and buy his coin, like where's the discovery to do real things and to do things that are beyond just trying to trade for a profit, right? And so I think for us, like that's ultimately what we want to pioneer. A lot of that's going to be predicated on market conditions. It's easier to tell that story when you have the wind of the bull in your sails. It always makes things easier. But I think we're going to set a standard and an example for crypto builders and just blockchains in general. Once we mainnet with all the things that we have in our back pocket. 200 builders committed to Abstract. We've probably talked, I think, between all of the DevRel and all of the ecosystem leads, probably like 400 or 500 people. Half of them we've kind of pointed away because I said, hey, look, like we're going to let you down, and ultimately, like builders want distribution, they want support, and I don't want people building on our chain that are not going to get those things. I'm really excited about Pudgy World, which is obviously like our in-house application. I think that really is going to tap into a viral nerve on social. I think another one that I'm really excited about is Spencer's OCAP Games and his Pudgy TCG. He's basically building like a Pudgy Parallel. So like if you're familiar with Parallel, it's an amazing game. Huge fan of Sasha and all those guys. Spencer had the wherewithal, to huge TCG, Magic the Gathering Pro, one of the top guys in the world playing Magic. He's like, dude, I think I can make an amazing TCG, and I can create a digital experience around that, and that's going to be super, super fun. We got Myriad, which is like a new way of kind of looking at like prediction markets. There's another company that we're working with called Sweep, which is basically like being able to go and bet on streams. So like imagine Kai Cenat is streaming and he's like playing a game. Are you gonna, people can be able to bet like over 13 kills or under 13 kills this game. It's going to be really exciting. There's another game that I probably can't mention the name of just yet. Everybody kind of knows it, but they're moving over to our ecosystem in a really amazing way. Open Social, which I think is a great social platform. Turn Up is one that I'm super excited about. They're basically like making like TikTok meets Pump Fun, and I think that's pretty fun in a way that I think most people haven't kind of seen yet. Memestagram, which is Ignis, I think that's going to be really funny. Like it's kind of like reminds me of like Fantasy Top meets Friend Tech. Which I think is pretty cool. There's another one. Why am I blanking on it? There's a couple. So I think for us, like I'm only going to mainnet when I think the ecosystem is in a really good place. A Crater.fun. That's another one that's going to be really epic. He's actually trying to take a crack at what I'm thinking about from like intangible. Like I have this thesis that that tokenization around the intangibles is like a huge unlock. So this idea of like meme coins being able to tokenize culture and making culture tangible. I actually think the biggest opportunity there is influence. So making influence tangible. I actually think that's there's like a multi-$100 billion TAM there. So I'm really excited about that. There's man, I could go through my list on my phone. And I'm like, there's a lot, but we've got some pretty gnarly builders, and I think the beauty of kind of what we're doing is like, how do we bring in some of these Web 2 builders? So what I've been doing is like, I've been going to my friends and kind of letting them know that like, hey, you building in Web 2, you're leaving so much money on the table because there's such a premium in Web 3. Like a perfect example, and it's super anecdotal, but it's like, Pudgy Penguins, the IP business, is probably, based on our revenue and things like that, in the traditional world, an $80 million business, great business, right? But like, the equity multiples on like something like IP are not necessarily high. In Web3, we're 250, $500 million business, right? And so there's a premium on what you're doing here. And so I'm actually convincing a lot of my Web2 builder friends to be like, dude, you got to come in here and start building. I'm sorry, I'm like pulling up my Notion with my builders trackers because try to give them more shout outs if I can. But there's a lot of premiums that I think are yet to be seen. And right now, I think the biggest premium is around user bases and trying to get a lot of Web 2 applications who have huge user bases in. Another one is Involio. My friend Sai has been building this like, social trading. It's like, it really touches like Forex and a bunch of other things, but it's like super fun. You can kind of speculate on people's portfolios. I can buy shares of somebody else's portfolio if I think they're a good trader. All the trades are verified on chain. That's a really great one. It's like gamifying that whole social experience. Again, if being able to speculate on your favorite trader's portfolio, I think is pretty fun. And he has 100,000 MAU. He's putting all that stuff on chain and bringing people over to Abstract. So I think those are kind of like a couple of examples of things that I'm super excited about. But there's a ton of amazing games. CartGo, like the games I think I'm really excited about too. On-Chain Heroes, which is the Wolf Game guys, are coming over. I think you might have met him at some point. Scarly is actually in based out of Korea. There's some really great ones.
Yeah, this will be our last question, but in 10, 15 years, how do you want people to describe Abstract and its ecosystem?
I think I want people to describe it as the consumer ecosystem. Like, this is the blockchain to build consumer, right? We are the consumer chain. We are going to own that category. I don't think anybody's going to beat us in that category. I'm excited to get a run for my money. But I think when we look at this 10 years from now, just like how you look at, Bitcoin as digital gold or Ethereum as programmable money, Abstract is the blockchain rails to build consumer applications. Well, hopefully it's more than fun by that time. If not, we wouldn't have broken through and done what we want. Yeah. It will be general purpose at that point, but general purpose around consumer, because Rocket Mortgage is a consumer application, right? But that's not necessarily fun, but that is consumer, right? I'm paying my mortgage with that and things like that. So, yeah, Zelle is consumer, right? Payments, things like that.
Well, it was very fun talking to you.
It was. I rambled a lot, so sorry.
It was so fun.
It was great. Well, thank you for coming in. You can go now.
I'm excited. I'm ready to eat. You know where we're going, Brandon?